How many remember Airwalk sneakers? Shortly after their launch in Southern California, Airwalk's bold and creative footwear silhouettes not only won the hearts of skaters, surfers, BMX guys, snowboarding people, and music enthusiasts, but quickly found its way on the feet of the general market consumers in every continent on Earth. They sponsored the most talented athletes as well as supported some of the most influential bands of the era. However, these days, Airwalk is a much different company. It's all but vanished from the walls of skate and surf and snowboard shops that it once dominated. Its loyal following of core community people have moved on, and only a few of its world-class athletes remain, leaving industry analysts scratching their heads as to how one of the world's most popular skate brands seemingly faded from the hearts and minds of fans who once held them so dearly. So, what exactly happened? How did Airwalk sneakers fall off so hard? Let's find out. I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com, and this is the rise and fall of Airwalk sneakers. Fame, fall, and nostalgia. But before we get started, please do us a favor and stop and hit all the buttons that help us grow. Also, this is the first week where we'll be trying something a bit new. With each video release, we'll be offering a custom poster from the brand at hand. We have 2 new Airwalk special release pieces on the site corresponding with this week's subject. At TakeFlight214.com, we offer hundreds of art pieces that any fan of the channel is sure to love. But with all that being said, let's dive in. The story all starts with 2 California visionaries, Bill Mann and George Johann, who one day saw an opportunity. George was a seasoned footwear industry veteran. Raised in Altoona, Pennsylvania, he started his first company, Blair Co., which manufactured unbranded shoes for major department stores like JCPenney's and Sears. Bill, a former art student, had a background as a buyer for athletic gear and women's shoes for companies like Payless and Shoe Corporation of America. His experience in the retail sector provided valuable insights into customer preferences and marketing trends. The turning point came when Mann's 11-year-old son expressed boredom with wearing generic white sneakers for skating, highlighting a gap in the market for skateboarding shoes. Recognizing this opportunity, Johann and Mann decided to create a brand that catered specifically to skateboarders, leading to the birth of Airwalk. They knew that if they wanted to make sneakers for skaters, they had to be legit. They wanted to make sure that they were built for abuse. Grippy soles, refined stitching, and thicker padding. They were among the first brands to offer chunky silhouettes, bold colorways, and distinctive designs that stood out from the typical athletic shoe used for skating. Airwalk tapped into a niche that big brands ignored. Skaters, punks, and alternative kids. They all adopted Airwalk not just for the performance, but because it represented rebellion. The 90s was the golden age of skateboarding, and Airwalk was at the center of it all. Skaters like Jason Lee, Tony Hawk, and Mike Valley all wore Airwalks. Their designs, such as the Vic, the Gem, and the Disaster, became instant classics. Before Nike SB took off, before DC, Airwalk ran the sector. They got so big that kids who never even touched the board were rocking Airwalks to school. Musicians, gamers, grunge kids, they all wanted in. Airwalk was becoming part of the larger counterculture that the 90s was so famous for. By the early to mid 90s, Airwalk sneakers were in malls, department stores, and schools across America. At its peak in the mid 90s, Airwalk was pulling in hundreds of millions of dollars annually and was a staple in youth culture. I think they got that popular because they were one of the first brands to speak directly to skaters and outsiders, not athletes. It provided a product built for their needs, promoted by their heroes, and styled for their attitude. The mid-90s was the peak for Airwalk. They were on top of the game at that time. In 1997, Airwalk was acquired by Collective License International. And that's where the story all began to change. CLI had a different vision. Less skate culture and more mall culture. In a bid to scale even bigger, Airwalk partnered with Payless Shoe Source, distributing cheaper, watered-down versions of their sneakers to mass markets. To the mainstream market, it seemed smart. More products moving, more distribution channels. No brainer, right? But to skaters, this was sacrilege. The brand that once defined edge and rebellion was now sharing shelf space with light up Velcros and church shoes. Skateboarding is about authenticity. Brands like Vans, DC, and Emerica knew that. They invested in skate teams, underground marketing, and community. But Airwalk, they abandoned the culture. They stopped innovating. No new tech, no heavy endorsements, no real storytelling. And as skateboarding entered the 2000s, with Nike SB and others pushing boundaries, Airwalk just faded. The Payless deal brought in short-term profit, but it destroyed brand equity. Airwalk became a generic logo on cheaply made shoes. Sure, parents bought them, but skaters didn't. Meanwhile, the core scene shifted. The kids who once wore Airwalk now mocked them. They wanted brands that were still in it, not ones that sold out. In 2012, Airwalk was picked up yet again by Authentic Brands Group, the same company that owns Reebok, Nautica, and Shaq's brand. They tried a few retro drops, but nothing really seemed to work. Today, Airwalk still exists, but it's just a shell, a nostalgic logo, a lost legacy. In the skate world, it's long been replaced by brands that never turn their back on core fans. So, what can we learn from the fall of Airwalk, or many of the other brands in this series for that matter? That in culture-driven industries, authenticity beats accessibility every time. The moment you forget your audience, you lose them. Airwalk didn't fall off because their shoes got worse, per se, although that did play a role. But they ultimately fell off because they stopped caring about the people who made them cool in the first place, in an attempt to make even more money. At the end of the day, Airwalk walked so other brands could run, but they also tripped over their own hype in the process. What do you think though? Were you a fan of Airwalk sneakers back in the day? Do you think that they could ever make a true comeback? Hit us in the comments and let us know. And if you made it all the way to the end and you enjoy content like this, then don't forget to hit the like button. Liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos is the only way to get the YouTube algorithms to notice us and help us to continue to grow as a channel. Otherwise, I wouldn't say it every week. Also, if you want to be updated whenever we drop a new episode, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell. That way you can be reminded when each new video is released. And another thing, don't forget to stop by the site and pick up one of those Airwalk posters that we did, special release for this episode only. But with all that being said, I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com signing out until next time. Peace.